Except tiny things stopped lining up. The tires wore down faster than the miles said they should, like the car was doing CrossFit at night. Fuel charges showed up near a suburb we don't live in, and the pine tree air freshener rotated scents more often than her perfume, like the car was trying to cover someone else's laundry. I chalked it up to math being rude. Then the service alert coughed up a number that didn't know how to lie. We were at the dealership, me with a coffee that tasted like regret, tattle wagon on a lift like a spa day for robots. The service tech walked over holding a tablet, and the expression of a man who has to be the midwife to bad news. "Hey," he said, "we're seeing 40,000 more miles in the telematics history than your odometer reports. Could be download lag, could be." He looked at me, then at the car, then back at me like he'd found a raccoon in a dishwasher. Inconsistent reporting. Is inconsistent reporting a checkbox? I asked, or more of a lifestyle? He did a shrug that meant, "Sir, I'm not getting between you and whatever this is." He printed a report. I signed something. My hands were steady. My insides were learning to juggle chainsaws. I drove home with that printout like it was radioactive. I opened a folder on my laptop named Boring Revenge. Inside it, I created car stuff. Inside that, do not panic. Everything important lies behind names that sound like accounting homework. That night, Lena texted, "Super busy, don't wait up." My eyebrow left my face and applied for asylum. I poured water, fed the dog, and opened the Tattlewagon app I'd forgotten I paid for. It remembered everything. Trips, start times, end times, idle minutes, stops. It had a map of our lives, and apparently a few extra lives I hadn't been invited to. I set a date filter. A heat bloom lit up a cul-de-sac 2 hours away like a campfire for secrets. I clicked into one Tuesday. Departed 4:42 p.m., arrived 5:58 p.m., passenger seat, occupied. Rear seats, 2 small occupants on and off between 6:04 and 6:37. Departed 8:52 p.m., returned 10:18 p.m. The car had receipts with posture. I felt equal parts nausea and gratitude. Gratitude because this meant I didn't have to argue with anyone's feelings. Nausea because, well, obviously. I whispered to the dashboard, "Blink twice if we're in a Lifetime movie." The dash blinked because I toggled Sentry Mode. Close enough. Let me be clear. I didn't want fire. I wanted math. So I did what any sane father who alphabetizes spices would do. I built a heat map. Every trip to that cul-de-sac turned into a cozy little ember on my screen. Tuesdays and Thursdays glowed like Christmas. Saturdays sprinkled in, late mornings to early afternoons. School pickup hours. The dates wore her calendar labels. Strategy session, workshop, client follow-up. Client HQ, apparently, is a vinyl-sided split level with a basketball hoop. I cross-referenced bank charges. Boutique grocery near that cul-de-sac. Cash withdrawals at an ATM conveniently located next to a field where you could, I don't know, drag a soccer net while wearing gym shorts. 2 days later, an email pinged. Toll records for a license plate that looks exactly like ours because it is ours. New pass opened 6 months ago. I never approved it. Cute. I stared at the ceiling and practiced not being theatrical. I like a clean confrontation. No yelling, no improvisation. Log, picture, plan. Meanwhile, Tattlewagon had a feature I'd never tapped. Sentry thumbnails. When motion happens near the car, it grabs a still. I opened it. A driveway I had never seen. A front door I didn't recognize. My wife carrying grocery bag. A guy in shorts dragging a soccer net out of the garage like it was his personality. Kid's face is blurred by the universe, and my heart anyway. I backed everything up twice. Lamp drive. Blueberries folder. Officer odometer folder. Because I cope by naming devices like they're federal agents. Then I took a walk, came back, patted the hood, and said, "Stand by, Sergeant Snitch." Here's the thing about 15 years. You don't light it on fire because a graph hurt your feelings. You let the paper walk. You let the car talk. And you build a boring war binder so tidy even regret can't argue. The glitch that screamed. The service tech called it inconsistent reporting, which is dealership for, "Sir, your car is living a double life and I'm not licensed for therapy." I called it the glitch that screamed because nothing screams like a number that refuses to blink. So I did triage. Coffee. Deep breath. Folder hygiene. Boring revenge / car stuff. Do not panic now had a roommate. Officer Odometer/evidence. The name calmed me like a warm towel for anxiety. Step 1. Confirm the ghost miles weren't a software hiccup. I exported the Telematics CSV like it was a playlist and sorted by trip ID. There they were, clean, boring rows marching to that cul-de-sac. If lies swagger, truth drinks water, and wears sensible shoes. I texted Lena, oil change done, all good. She replied, you're the best. Which is absolutely true and also suddenly a jump scare. Back in the app, I noticed a field I'd ignored. Environmental temperature at start and end. Cute. Except it proved the car wasn't napping in a garage downtown. It was cooling from highway speeds, then warming in a quiet suburb while my lasagna cooled alone. Drama, but with Kelvin. Then the car did something petty and perfect. It logged seatbelt buckle timestamps. Passenger seat buckled 5:59 p.m., rear left buckled 6:05. Rear right buckled 6:06. Unbuckled 6:37, 6:38, 6:39. Like siblings exiting a ride while arguing about who gets the front seat next. The algorithm labeled the rear occupant's child profile based on weight thresholds and buckle height. I didn't know the car could body shame me with science, but there we were. I whispered, buddy, if you also know shoe sizes, blink. The dash stayed stoic like a British butler, then politely offered a tire pressure check because it hates fun. I built a chart called Not My Carpool. Tuesdays and Thursdays stacked like Jenga blocks. Saturdays added sprinkles. I color-coded them lemon zest yellow because I'm petty, and because nothing labeled lemon can hurt you more than once. Next, the odometer discrepancy. I ran a pivot table. Yes, I hear how that sounds. And compared telematics distance against cluster readings by month. The delta charted its own romance arc. Coy in year 1, bold in year 2, shameless for the last 6 months. My marriage and my speedometer were living separate lives, and only one of them had good boundaries. I needed corroboration that didn't live in the cloud I paid for. Enter toll history. The pass account showed transactions with an account nickname I didn't create, Ridgeview. Cute. Also, the name of the middle school near the cul-de-sac. If coincidence had a laugh track, it would have been wheezing. The glitch escalated to scream when I clicked vehicle events and found door open, trunk 6:59 p.m., followed by luggage compartment closed 7:07 p.m. 8 minutes later. What takes 8 minutes? A grocery bag, Tetris level, and a man in gym shorts wrestling a soccer net, apparently. I know because Sentry Thumbnails decided to join the group chat with 3 stills of life outside my house like it was applying for a journalism award. At that point, Denial packed a small bag and moved out. Acceptance arrived with office supplies. I printed the cleanest sheets, date-stamped them, and wrote chain of custody notes like the world's saddest security guard. Lamp drive backup verified. Blueberries folder duplicated to cloud. I even hand-numbered pages because chaos hates pagination. I also gave myself a 10-minute timer to feel things. Timer up, I told Officer Odometer. We'll cry in Excel. The car chimed exactly once like a church bell for spreadsheets. Because I hate surprises more than I hate crumbs in cutlery drawers, I tested live. I set a geofence around the cul-de-sac labeled Not Client HQ, toggled Notify on Entry, and this is where even I admit the bit went too far. Enabled a custom alert sound, a referee whistle. Petty artistry matters. 2 evenings later, 5:56 p.m., whistle. My phone lit up with a notification so cheerful, it felt cruel. Tattlewagon entered Not Client HQ. Seatbelt, passenger. 5 minutes later, rear left, then rear right. I watched the live breadcrumb path settle like the world's worst Uber ride. I watched the idle clock climb. I watched my lasagna recipe tab ask if I was still there. That night, she texted, back late, client crisis. I typed same and didn't send it. At 9:41, the car dinged, Sentry event detected. I opened the clip because of course I did. My wife set a grocery bag on the trunk clip and laughed at something off camera. Gym shorts man hauled the net like a Labrador hauling a log. 2 small figures bounced past the bumper. He waved at the car as if a camera couldn't possibly be a camera. I paused the frame where his wave looked like an autograph on a confession. Then, the tiniest heartbreak. A still of her tying a kid's cleat, using the loop-over-loop knot I taught her because double knots are tyranny. I put the printout face down and stared at the backside so I could breathe without falling through the floor. I labeled that page Human. I labeled the next one Math. We could have it both ways, but in the right order. 2 more things screamed without sound. In Bluetooth pairing history, 2 unknown devices, Kid Tablet and Coach Dan 2. The car had met their tech and was excited to share. And in comfort settings, seat memory profiles had micro adjustments on Tuesdays that weren't mine. Steering wheel pulled way back, seat low, like someone with longer legs and a protein shakes or personality posture took it for a spin. I didn't accuse. Not yet. I booked a consult with a lawyer whose online reviews used words like methodical and unflappable and plants. I wrote myself a rule. No monologues. No guessing. Log, picture, plan. The glitch had screamed. The car had testified. My job was to number the exhibits and keep the knives in the drawer. Telematics 101 for petty spouses. Here's the part where my love language becomes CSV files and my kink is accurate timestamps. Telematics isn't sexy until your marriage needs chain of custody. Then it's lingerie made of metadata. The app had tabs I'd ignored for years like a gym membership. Trips, events, geofences, diagnostics. It was basically a diary with road rage. I started with trip logs because I respect chronology more than I respect most people's opinions. Every entry, start time, stop time, distance, average speed, idle time, ambient temp, and a cheerful map line that looked like a vein screaming. I exported everything to Excel and greeted it like a friend. Column A, date. B, start. C, end. D, distance. E, idle. F, geotags. Then I dropped in a slicer for Tuesday/Thursday filters because I refused to scroll like a peasant. The pattern didn't just appear, it climbed out of the screen and asked for snacks. 2 trips a week, near identical timing, surgical consistency. If cheating had an HR department, it wrote this schedule. Next tab, vehicle events. This is where the car publishes gossip. Door opens by position. Trunk pops. Remote start requests. Cabin preheat at 4:51 p.m. on not winter days. Why would you remote start a car at 72 degrees? So the cabin smells like eucalyptus and plausible deniability when you whisper, client dinner ran long. Then I got to geofences. I set one around our house called Safe Harbor and another around the cul-de-sac called Not Client HQ. Pro tip, name your fences for the judge you haven't met yet. Toggle notify on entry/exit, set thresholds, and choose a sound. I picked a whistle because pettiness is an art. Weight sensors are where it gets spicy. The car knows when a seat is occupied, whether the belt's locked, and it guesses size based on pressure maps and posture. No, it doesn't know birthdays. Yes, it knows if a booster was there last Tuesday. The log reads like, passenger, adult, rear left, small occupant, rear right, small occupant, belt heights at not adult. It's adorable until you realize your life is a clown car with documentation. Bluetooth pairing history made me cackle and then sit down. Known devices included my phone, Lena's phone, and 2 strangers, Kid Tablet and Coach Dan 2. Why 2? Did the first Coach Dan fail quality control? I clicked details. First seen, 4 months ago. Last seen, yesterday. Favorite status, true. The car prefers the man named after whistle practice. Cute. Idle time is the quiet killer. People think distance tells the story. Nah. It's the 19 minutes of engine on, doors closed, cabin climate steady at 70, in a driveway, not yours. I built a pivot on idle blocks and painted anything over 15 red. The sheet looked like a rash that needed antibiotics. Remote command showed a pattern so petty, it deserves a plaque. On Tuesdays, the driver's seat moves back an extra inch and the lumbar setting drops to 3. On Thursdays, the steering column tucks low. This is the ergonomic signature of a man who thinks squats are a personality. Meanwhile, on Saturdays, the profile resets to her exact settings at 10:04 a.m., then again at 1:27 p.m. after errands. Errands do not have quads. Diagnostics gave me a church laugh. The car records TPMS variance by wheel. Rear right is consistently 2 psi higher after not client HQ visits, which means Jim Shortman likes his driveway more than my air compressor. I flagged it anyway because prosecutors love consistency and I love oxygen. And then cabinetry. Phone as key is a blessing for people who hate fishing for fobs and a curse if you're living fiction. Each entry lists which device pinged the car first. On 12 separate Thursdays, her phone wasn't first. A device labeled Dan iPhone opened the car 5:58 p.m., passenger side. My notes read, "Sir, geo heat map time." I pulled coordinates and baked them in a free tool that turns deceit into ingredients. Our house? Warm. The office? Warm. That cul-de-sac? Flaming comet. The route became muscle memory for a car that doesn't have muscles. For cross-checks, I matched trips to banking. Boutique grocer within 0.2 miles of not client HQ, timestamped 7:11 p.m. over and over. Fuel station 3 blocks down, loyalty code ending 62. I didn't set up. Tell me you're living a duplicate life without telling me you're living a duplicate life. Redeemed car wash. Try fail cycles? Plenty. At first, I thought maybe she was mentoring a youth team. Sweet. Noble. Then Bluetooth whispered Coach Dan too, and the weight logs kept buckling tiny humans weekly for years. I doubted again. Maybe she's helping a cousin. I checked her cousin. None lived there. Denial tried one more push-up and pulled something important. Finally, Sentry Mode. It logs motion events with thumbnails. Garbage night. Porch light. Soccer net wrestle. Grocery bag yoga. One clip caught her placing a hand on a kid's head in that absent, familiar way people do when they belong. I labeled it human again, then filed it under math with everything else. I Venmo'd myself $1 labeled therapy, then declined it for compliance. Then I patted the dash and said, "Sergeant Snitch, that'll do." The car offered a software update like applause. The camera that didn't blink. Sentry Mode is basically a nosy neighbor with a law degree, and I had never given it a real job. That changed when Sergeant Snitch started acting like it got tenure. The thumbnails lined up in the app like little confession Polaroids. Gray suburban driveway. Porch light doing its best moon impression, and my car sitting there like a witness in a suit. First frame I opened, I swear my pupils dilated. A front door I didn't recognize. Beige perfection. 2 pumpkins that were either seasonal or held hostage. My wife stepped into view. 2 reusable grocery bags cutting off circulation to her fingers. She did the keys in mouth, elbow the trunk dance I've seen 1,000 times, just not at a house I'd never visited. Next clip, Jim Short's lumberjack enters from stage left, dragging a soccer net like he was auditioning for CrossFit the musical. He gave the bumper a friendly pat. Not the way you pat your car, the way you pat a dog you think you might adopt. I paused it and zoomed with the ferocity of a raccoon discovering Tupperware. Then took a breath so I didn't scream into the speaker grill. Sentry has that little red dot, the one that means, "We caught motion, buddy." Mine looked like acne. Event after event. 6:59 trunk pop, 7:02 net drag, 7:11 grocery lift, 7:34 tiny human blur bouncing past the rear wheel like joy on caffeine. Faces stayed mercifully turned or smudged by bad lighting, thank you ethics. But the truth didn't need cheekbones. I exported the lot and hashed them like a guy who once read a forensics blog at 2 a.m. MD5, SHA 256. Don't worry, I labeled it Officer Odometer /video/do not edit. Even you, future me. I threw copies in lamp drive and blueberries because camouflage is a lifestyle. Then wrote chain of custody notes like a hall monitor with adult taxes. Watching hurt and helped at the same time. The tiniest moment got me. Her hip bump to close the trunk. That lazy little move she does when her hands are full. My brain offered up our kitchen trash can. The cabinet door she knocks with her knee to toss peels when she's making soup. The joke she always made about premium legs. I pressed pause and counted to 10 like I was diffusing a Christmas ornament. Okay, then math. The camera timestamps matched the telematics entries down to the minute. Passenger door open at 5:59. Sentry caught her shadow sliding across the quarter panel. Rear belts unclick at 6:37. 2 small blurs fling out of frame like popcorn. 8-minute trunk Tetris? The next sequence could be a how-to video, except the how-to is assemble your own alibi. If Petty had a weather app, it dinged next. One still caught the reflection in the car's glossy paint. Coach Quads wearing a school hoodie. Ridgeview naturally. I screenshotted my own bumper like a tourist at the Louvre and filed it under Why Not Universe. I wanted to be surgically boring, so I printed 4 representative frames and left the rest in their digital cave where metadata sings. Exhibit A, unfamiliar porch. Exhibit B, groceries plus laugh. Exhibit C, soccer net wrestle. Exhibit D, the pat. I captioned them with timestamps and geofence names, then put sticky notes that said human and math because apparently I moonlight as my own therapist. Sentry also logs confidence movement, which is the car's way of rating how sure it is a thing is interesting. Garbage trucks are low confidence. People you married loading milk at a second house? 5 stars, chef's kiss. I annotated that too, because judges love little boxes with numbers, and I love when machines act smug on my behalf. To make sure I wasn't living an art film where light lies, I did a Sunday drive. Soft stakeout. I cruised past the cul-de-sac once at noon, windows up, radio off, heart reminding me it exists. Tattlewagon did its neutral creep while I waved at no one and pretended I was lost. The house looked exactly like the thumbnails. The basketball hoop, the porch chairs, the sympathy pumpkins. I didn't stop. I didn't take photos. I let the car know, yes, this is real. Thanks. Keep it moving. Back home, I gave Sergeant Snitch a pep talk. You're not revenge, I said. You're receipts. The car responded by suggesting a software update and a wiper blade replacement, which is fair. Nothing says civilized like good visibility. Here's the punchline Sentry delivered last. Ambient audio, low and dirty. You can't record audio in a lot of places. The car doesn't. But one clip, the door stayed open long enough that it caught Jim Shorts humming the same 4 notes you hum when you're not worried about being caught. It was not a song. It was easy. It was everything. I wrote, feelings later. Then I labeled a new section in my binder, VO corroboration. Printed thumbnails slid into page protectors like tiny, awful wedding photos. I numbered them. I initialed the corner like a narc. Then I closed the binder and sat on my hands until my palms cooled. And because Petty is a recovery program, I named the camera system Officer Ocular in the file tree and whispered to the garage, "Good work, team. Hydrate." The water heater hummed, building the dog sneezed. The car blinked its binder like a dad assembling a trampoline. Too confident, slightly terrified, and with a deep respect for springs. 3-inch D-ring spine. Clear page protectors. Tabs so aggressive they could vote. Cover label, Officer Roadmap. Subtitle, smaller font. Receipts, not feelings. First tab, trips. I printed the Telematics CSV summaries as if they were love letters from a very judgmental robot. Each page had columns highlighted. Date, start, stop, distance, idle. I stamped them with a tiny exhibit stamp I bought at 2 a.m. because insomnia loves Etsy. Each sheet got a bottom right corner code, or TR001 -- into forever. Boring is a weapon. Second tab, miles. This is where the ghost miles flexed. I plotted odometer versus telematics distance by month and printed the chart in grayscale like a courtroom couture choice. The line for telematics did mountain yoga. The odometer played limbo. I taped a sticky at the top. The odometer doesn't do improv. Petty titles keep me calm. Third tab, weight sensors. I printed occupancy logs with belt timestamps. Passenger adult. Rear, small. I added tiny silhouettes in the margin like a children's book illustrated by a statistician. To the right, I pasted a legend with thresholds. Adult, child, booster. The car body shamed politely. I underlined politely. Fourth tab, Bluetooth. Known devices, us. Unknown devices, kid tablet, Coach Dan 2. I printed the first scene/scene table and circled dates with a red pen like a TV detective who needs a nap. In the footer I wrote, if he has a 2, he's been here long enough to crash the first. Fifth tab, Sentry. 4 printed thumbnails per page, captions with timestamps and GPS coordinates. No faces, no drama. Just grocery transfer, net wrestle, door open, the pat. I placed them so the frames aligned with the corresponding trip pages because I am romance coded for cross-reference. In the margin, tiny arrows labeled human math. Sixth tab, geofences and heat map. I printed the glowing comet of not client HQ, and, because I hate myself, I printed an inset map with trips overlaid. Label on top, client HQ equals middle school pickup zone, then a footnote. Ridgeview was not a boardroom. I could hear the judge's eyebrows arching from here. Seventh tab, financial overlap. Boutique grocery receipts captured from the bank portal. ATM withdrawals that lined up obnoxiously with idle blocks, a toll pass account page with the nickname Ridgeview circled like a guilty puppy. I added a simple ledger: date, vendor, distance to fence, notation. The notes column said things like soap plus oranges plus soccer because my soul is an editorial. 8th tab, vehicle events, door/trunk cycles, remote starts, climate preconditioning. I highlighted the preheat at 4:51 p.m. on a 72-degree day and wrote in pen, eucalyptus doesn't require heat. Then I read it out loud once and rolled my eyes at myself. The binder didn't laugh, but it felt supportive. 9th tab, diagnostics, TPMS variants, steering column and seat memory adjustments on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the petty lumbar changes. I put 2 screenshots landscape, then a caption, quads are not errands. I taped it down with washi that had little traffic cones because if you can't be extra while your life implodes, why even buy office supplies? 10th tab, chain of custody, hash values for the files, export dates and times, locations of backups, lamp drive, blueberries, cloud boring name. I initialed each entry like a hall monitor who finally got tenure. I even wrote the sentence, printed by me from my account unedited, and then made myself a tea to wash the taste of adulthood out of my mouth. I built a crosswalk index, page numbers to tab numbers to exhibit codes. It looked like the world's saddest treasure map. Then I wrote the rule on a sticky and slapped it inside the front cover. Log, picture, plan. Under that, no monologues. I booked the lawyer consult. The office had plants that could file taxes. She skimmed 3 pages, then tapped the spine like she was testing drywall. This binder will win friends in court, she said. Slow, quiet, methodical. She asked for clean copies. I handed the stack like a waiter with a very serious lasagna. Next, home triage. I froze the joint card limit to milk and emergencies, opened a kid-only account with alerts at $20, and set text pings for any new pass charges. I made a lockbox, passports, titles, birth certificates, prenup, telematics exports on labeled drives. The label maker got so hot it needed a wellness check. I tried a script with myself. We're keeping this clinical. I practiced the line 3 times until it sounded like a person not auditioning for a soap opera. I added a page titled Kitchen Table with a 3-step agenda. 1. Show heat map. 2. Show occupancy logs. 3. Offer plan. Therapist, calendar, DNA optional custody status quo. At the bottom I wrote, boundaries, not theatrics. Finally, I took a picture of the binder and texted it to myself with a caption, Officer Roadmap. Then set it as a hidden album because subtlety is also a witness. I closed the cover, squared the edges, and patted it like a dog who knows sit and stay. Sergeant Snitch blinked in the garage. Paper exhaled. My chest followed. Quiet verification weekend. I gave myself a rule for the weekend. Verify, don't vandalize. Soft shoes, softer voice, and the softest face I could arrange on short notice.